Okay, well, and looks like it is time. So I just want to welcome everybody to the United Leukodystrophy Foundation's virtual family conference session on mental health for caregivers and families, presented by Crystal O'Loughlin. This session is being recorded and will be posted for viewing online in early July. Thank you so much for joining us. And now I will turn it over to Crystal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tara. Oh my goodness. Well, first, let me just say, you are the troopers. This has been a long day for all of the families and the participants. And so what I hope to do is just share a little bit of energy with you over the next hour, give you some perspective on some ways to kind of nurture and recharge and refuel yourself. So that's what today is all about. And so I'm going to pull up the first slide, and I'm assuming that you're going to see this kind of slide and then presenter on the side. I tend to talk with my hands and be a little bit animated, so hopefully that is okay. So I'm hearing that the volume is really low, and is there any way to raise the volume? So let me do this. Take my headphones out and raise the volume that way. Did that help? Is that better? If someone could just drop into the chat that works for you, great. Let me know if it isn't, and we'll make another adjustment. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share screen, and select this here, and I assume that someone will let me know if for some reason you can't see the screen. And I see in the chat that, oh no, it says my volume's all the way up. Mine's all the way up too. So I'm not sure, Tara, if there's anything that you can do on the volume side, but.
To be honest, I kind of heard you better before.
Oh, okay.
But I hear you fine. It looks like she's going to try to put her headphones on. Is anybody else having any issues?
No. Okay. Well, let me go with the headphones, and we'll just keep troubleshooting and manifesting good volume for Marcy. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna jump in, and I'm seeing others say no issues with either. So, okay, let's go ahead and jump in, and in the meantime, do me a favor, just take a minute. Let's just stretch. I mean, oh my gosh, if you want to stand up, you can. I'm just gonna take a quick stand up here and go a little on the side, and just go a little bit over on the side, and maybe a little twist here, and a little shoulder roll and a neck roll, and just let out some of that. Sometimes it helps to shake, but just let some of that extra energy. Is so unnatural for us to sit here for hours at a time, and I just want to recognize that can be a little tough on your body. So you're just going to kind of get a little bit of that energy out. So as Tara mentioned, my name is Crystal O'Loughlin, and I have literally grown up in the rare disease community. I'm going to share a little bit about our Barrett family story. I'm going to share about Angel Aid and our organization. And really most important, I'm going to give you 5 tools that you can actually use in your day-to-day life that literally take micro moments a day. That's what this is really all about. Is we don't have a lot of time. Whether we're patients, we're advocates, we're caregivers, whether we're just parents or workers or whatever all the different roles in our lives are, we just don't have a lot of time. And I want to recognize that. I'm also getting a little message that my earring is hitting against the microphone. So let me take that off as well. Okay. So I founded Angel Aid in the year 2000. We've been around for a long time. We're very focused on science and research for the first 17 years of the organization. And the last 3 years, we've been focused on mental health and wellness of the whole family. So everything that you're going to hear in here, if it's been backed by scientific research, I'm going to call that out for you. And otherwise, much of what's presented is based on my years as a patient, as a caregiver, as a sibling, as a daughter, as a mother, all of those various different roles, and then certainly as the leader of this amazing organization. I did get the really awesome opportunity to do a TEDx. It's called Caring for the Caregivers, and it's a story about our family experience. So if you're ever sitting around, just want to have a glass of wine or a cup of coffee and listen to the TEDx, TEDx's are never more than 18 minutes, so that you'll have a time limit on that. I'd be quite honored. Okay. Okay, so in terms of an agenda, let's talk about that because I think that's really quite important for you to know what you're spending your time on. First and foremost, I've set my timer, okay? And the reason I did that is I want to make sure that we leave room at the end for Q&A. So if you have any questions, just make a mental note or jot them down on a piece of paper, and at the last 5 minutes, I promise you, we will have a Q&A so we can go over some of these things. It's kind of hard to do like dynamic Q&A when you're in a Zoom scenario, so that's why we set it up in this structure. But in terms of today, you're going to get some insights in the what we call Grin and Barrett. This is a love story that stems from our family. I'm also going to share a tool for sustainable self-care around breath. We're going to talk about what I call caregiver and patient CTSD, chronic traumatic stress versus post-traumatic stress, because we're never really over the hump, right? We're always sort of in this cyclical experience. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and the research that we've done just to validate what I think so many people often feel. And then we'll go into the second tool for self-care. It's what I call rainbow. You'll be able to invoke rainbow wherever you are in your day-to-day life. And then I'm going to give you 5 more tools for self-care, sensory self-care towards the end, right? So you're going to leave with seven tools that you can use literally in micro moments a day. And it's the number one thing we hear from rare families: I don't have time for self-care. And what I want to impart to you is that there's ways to kind of make this time, create it in things that you're already doing every day. So that's our agenda, and hopefully that's in line and even more potentially than what you had hoped to experience today. And so what we'll do is we'll start out with the Barrett family. Grin and Barrett is our motto in the family. My parents, Richard and Phyllis, met in high school. He was captain of the football team and she was head drill team leader. And they met and fell fast in love. They got married very soon after graduation. They knew they wanted to have a big family. So they actually had a basketball team of kids, 5 kids in 8 years, okay? Rapid succession of children. And Richard, my oldest brother, and I are the survivors, the surviving children of the 5. So as it turns out, my mother is a carrier of a lysosomal storage disease called mucopolysaccharidosis. And my parents really did the very best that they could with the resources and the options that were available to them at the time. But the reality is, David, Jared, and Randy, my 3 middle brothers, were born with MPS disease. There is no cure for MPS. There is now a treatment for MPS, which is just amazing. And I've, over my lifetime, been able to witness the development and the clinical trial of that treatment. But the reality is my brothers did pass away at 12, 18, and 19 years old. And this was an incredible burden on our family. It was also an amazing experience. I can tell you that even though my brothers gained their ability to walk and to talk and then lost over time because of Hunter syndrome, this disease, they lost their ability to walk and talk. I always knew where they stood. There's something really incredibly resilient about children. We have our own language. So even though I was the youngest, I always knew if my brothers were happy or sad or angry or frustrated or elated, right? And I just want to take a moment and say that it's Randy's. He's the baby of the 3. I'm the baby of the 5. But Randy, it's Randy's birthday today. And so I dedicate this talk to my brother, Randy. I talked to David, Jared, and Randy all the time. I've likened them to the three stars in the constellation Orion. Orion is a constellation that comes out in the summer sky. And there's three stars for the sword, the strength of Orion. And so I'm constantly talking to my brothers whenever I see that constellation. The reality of caregiving for three very sick children and two healthy children was enough to tear my parents' marriage apart. And when we talk in reflection as a family, it really was because they didn't have the skills to talk about what was happening, and they didn't have the awareness to ensure that they were taking care of themselves first and their relationship first in the context of everything that was going on. So my parents did divorce when I was 3, and it is a very sad and tragic circumstance, but there's a lot of empathy and experience that comes out of that. I think you probably know that just being in this world of rare disease. And so I will let you know that David, Jared, and Randy had a really amazing life. And I know that I will see them again someday. So in this context is this question, right? Like, why me? Why did this happen? And I think any of us can ask that question, and really, truly, probably can, most of the planet has been asking this question, right? We have been suffering through this collective, global, traumatic experience called the pandemic. And so if there was ever a time where, the general public, our friends and our neighbors, could understand what we have been going through, it might be the closest to just the last 2 years, right? I call it the trifecta. So things that as rare families we've been experiencing forever, right? So isolation, um, homeschooling, work from home dynamics, right? These kinds of disruptions in our day-to-day routines and our day-to-day lives. So that trifecta, the third is being this medical uncertainty, right? This is our world. This is what we live in, right? And so I really think that out of these experiences is this understanding, this recognition that we are in a mode of suffering, and out of this suffering comes, now for some reason I have seemed to have lost my screen, and I'm not sure why. So I'm going to try sharing in a bit of a different way. Let me see if that helps. Okay, so I'm screen sharing again. So suffering sows the seeds of empathy, right? Because how could you ever really truly empathize with another human being unless you've had some sort of experience that gives you a glimmer, right? And we all, even if we can't stand exactly in someone's shoes, we can at least try to relate their experience through some other experience that we've been through. So I think there's this amazing opportunity now for our friends, our neighbors, our workmates, to appreciate on some level the challenges that we go through. And I really am encouraging you to, if you aren't, to start talking about your experiences. If there wasn't a receptive energy on the other end in the past, I really do think, and I'm the eternal optimist, but I do think that there is a receptivity on the planet energetically now that didn't exist before this collective traumatic experience that we had. Okay, so just encouraging those that are listening, and really anybody I come in contact with, to keep trying again, because there's a catharsis that comes out of sharing and talking about our experiences. And really the only thing that a human being can lose in life is a dream. And it's just, my daughter's 14. I was just talking to her about this the other day, because the past is the past. It's not something we can change. We can reflect on it, but we can't change it. And the present is this moment that we're living in, right? And everything in the future is really just a dream. It's an illusion. It's what we thought life was going to be like. And when we are faced with the realities that life isn't what we thought it was going to be like, that's where grieving often comes in, or anger, right, or frustration, right? It's not living in the moment. It's living in the future of this ideal, right? Because when you're living in the moment, you have an opportunity to find something to be grateful for, some one thing, right? And it might be, I'm grateful for taking this next breath. Literally, like, that is all I can muster to be grateful for right now. I'm really down, or I'm really upset, or I'm really angry, but I'm here on the planet. There's something to be thankful for that. And I can tell you, as a survivor of my three older brothers passing away, I revisit that often. I get to live, and they did not, right? So you start getting into these really interesting mindsets when you're just sort of living in these moments. And we'll talk more about micro moments a little bit later, but I just wanted to kind of share that perspective with you. And also share this perspective. This is my joy, right? So my joy is three generations of rare disease. My mother, who is a carrier, myself, who is also a carrier of Hunter syndrome, and this incredible gift I've been given to have a child. So my husband and I had our daughter Chloe. It was not an easy path to get to bringing her into the world. She is our one and only, and she is also a carrier, so she will have her own journey with rare disease in the future. They are my inspiration. That is so much of why I do this work in Angel Aid. I started Angel Aid as a nonprofit to cure MPS disease, and one of our research grants went on to actually to a pretty famous guy in the rare disease space named Emil Kakkis. So Emil was a researcher at a UCLA. He was a recipient of an Angel Aid and National MPS Society research grant back in 2003, and went on to find a treatment for Hunter syndrome. So young men that were actually passing away in their teens are now going off to college. And it's been my great privilege and honor to witness that process, treatment through clinical trials. So if you ever wonder, I just have to say this for a moment. It's a plug for charity and philanthropy. But if you ever wonder that, does this run walk make a difference? Does my $10 donation make a difference? The answer is yes. Yes, it does. It all adds up. We pool together our resources. We're getting better and better at it in the rare disease space, especially. We didn't used to be a rare disease community, right? We used to be every individual disease focused on their own experience. And even the United Leukodystrophy Foundation, I had this really rich conversation with Bob and with Keely and with others about, this 40 years of history, but also contextualizing that each individual disease, CRABE is another organization I've done some work with, that each individual subset even of a disease, right, can roll up into this collective beneficial experience. So just know that if you ever feel isolated, you're part of a community of 350 million families around the world, and there are resources for you, okay? And Angel Aid is one of those. So just wanted to kind of share that perspective, and also give you permission to ask for help. It's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable to ask for help. And we spend a lot of time working with caregivers and rare families. So that's our new focus over the last 3 years, has been to focus on the mental health and wellness of the caregivers. While the scientists and the researchers are doing their amazing work to eventually find treatments and hopefully someday cures, and I do believe in our lifetime we're going to see cures for so many of these rare diseases. But while research and science is doing that hard work, and while the foundations like the United Leukodystrophy Foundation are doing so much of the family support work, we wanted to make sure that we were filling a gap around mental health and wellness. Okay, and we're going to talk about why we think that's a gap. In the meantime, I just wanted to mention that we do have a special place in our heart for rare mothers. Mothers are the primary caregiver 82% of the time in rare families. That being said, always in service of fathers as well, and any other individuals within the family. So we view mothers as sort of the tip of the arrow for us to come in. If we can support the mothers and if we can support the fathers, everybody benefits in the family. So, so that's our point of view. And so let's talk about self-care, because babies are just like incredibly attuned to how to get the care they need, right? Their cry is perfectly calibrated to elicit a response in us, right? Okay, baby cries, we need to go and take care of that child. And really what they trigger, or really what anyone triggers when they call out for help and support, is our capacity for love, right? And especially if you're a parent, you know that your capacity for love is unlimited. You know, we always tell if we have more than one child, right? Or even with our siblings, you have more than one sibling, or even just looking around, you may have pets or, you know, other people. It's your capacity for love is unlimited, right? And we can give love. We give so much love all the time. And I see that my screen share is paused again. So I'm going to share in a little bit different way. I think I'm going to share this way now. And let's see if that helps. Okay, so so as we give, we were talking about love and the unlimited amount of love that we can give. As we give and we give and we give, what can often happen is there's so many hearts to heal and support that we can give so much that we deplete ourselves, right? And that empathy, right? That capacity for love is what makes us human, okay? And that capacity for love can also be our own downfall, right? So we need to step back and just be reminded. So let me just remind you that you are worthy of the same love that you give to others. So, so please don't forget. And we've heard all the kind of the classic, like, put on your life, you know, your life support before you help others. And we sort of know that. But for some reason, in this triage mode of caregiving and of caregiving to ourselves, if we're a patient, we forget to just take a little bit of time for love, of self-love in particular. So we're going to start with that first micro moment, and it's called breathing. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to please set down anything you may have in your hands. And if you're seated, you know, put your feet flat on the ground, uncross your legs. And if you're standing, just sort of get grounded in your feet. And if you like, you can close your eyes. And we're going to take 3 deep breaths together. Okay? And the first deep breath in, and out. And a deep breath in, and a deep breath out. Last one. A deep breath in, in, and a deep breath out. You can slowly open your eyes and notice your body. We've just calmed our nervous system, and it took us less than 20 seconds, right? Just 3 deep breaths, whether it's in your car right before you're coming into the house, whether it's in the hospital right before uh, you're going into a doctor's appointment, right? So that deep breath is the first of your self-care skills. And it's available to you at any time. It doesn't cost anything. It's just micro moments. Okay, so keep that in your toolkit in the back of your mind. Okay, so what are some other ways? What are other ways that we can kind of take care of ourselves, right? Because we've been given permission. I've given you the permission to do self-care along the way. And so what I'll say is that there is a clear path. There is a clear path to sustainable mental health and wellness, to sustainable self-care. And it has to do with recognizing the need within yourself, so that you build and you cultivate this sense of resilience, right? Because what we know is the hits just keep coming in rare disease, right? It's just sort of one hurdle after the next. And so we have to get kind of, in this sort of cadence, right? Just like a boxer would, right? You've got to exercise these muscles. And then what you'll start to realize is, wow, wait a second. I'm stronger than I realized. I can get through this next hurdle, this next difficulty, this next experience. And so the way I really actually internalized this, because I kind of had witnessed my mother, doing acts of self-care over the years, but I didn't really internalize it until I became the patient, right? So I was if for those of you who have joined, I had 3 older brothers pass away from a rare disease, but that wasn't me. There's a difference when you're witnessing in someone else an experience, right? So then I went through the patient point of view. So I was clipping along. I worked at IBM for 10 years. I was running this global advertising agency. I was traveling all over the world, top of my game. Went in for a routine mammogram, and what, bam, you've been diagnosed with breast cancer, and everything comes to a screeching halt. And I'm not telling any of you anything that you're not aware of. Life got really medical, really, really fast. And so in that experience, I had the opportunity to be the patient and to witness the caregiving around me, right? And some did better than others in terms of taking care of themselves as they were taking care of me. I will say, I'm almost 5 years cancer free, which is just, I'm so grateful for every moment, for every day. I'm also so grateful to my husband and to my mother, my father, my family, and my daughter, all the sorority sisters and the people that gathered around to help support me during that period of time. But out of that came this really strong sense of, okay, what am I going to do to change the world? Because you stare down mortality, right? Whether you're staring down mortality for yourself or another human being, it changes your perspective. And it changed mine enough to the point where I realized, okay, I'm not going to do Angel Aid on the side. I'm going to sell my portion of the advertising agency, and I'm going to run this nonprofit full time. And I'm going to talk every single day of my life about the importance of health and wellness and the importance of finding balance. I'm going to live what I know it takes to live for the long run, right? And to live every day in this perspective of hopefully some semblance of balance. And I can tell you it's not easy. It's not, I'm not coming at it from a holier than thou or I've got it all figured out. Not at all. I come at it from humility. I come at it from, this is hard. It's hard to take care of yourself. But as you do it, as you get in these kinds of mindsets, and it is a mindfulness practice, right? As you start doing pie charts, or you do, growth bars, or whatever it is, as you start taking inventory of yourself and all the different amazing, beautiful facets of you, as you start taking note of your environment, of your financial, your spiritual, your emotional, your intellectual, your physical, and your social health, right? Those are all the different facets. I don't know why I keep getting kicked out, and I'm so sorry for that. Let me try this again. Okay, and I'm going to go right into, I'm going to try this again in a totally different way because we keep getting kicked out. So let me try presentation mode. As you start looking at each of these different facets of you, what you'll realize is, oh, okay, I'm over rotated over here, or I'm under supported over here, right? And so you'll start getting in the habit of doing these sort of mental check-ins. The other thing that I want to, as you're doing these mental check-ins, I want to just recognize, because it's always really bothered me. So there's this recognition in the world of mental health, right? And there's so much more conversation about mental health. We just came off of, Mental Health Awareness Month is May, right? So maybe your kids are talking about it in school, or maybe you're seeing the signs. What are the 5 signs of mental health crisis, right? You can go to our website and you can see the 5 signs. You become more versed on this, but what really always bothered me is if you get into a professional cycle of mental health support, they talk about PTSD, post-traumatic stress, and that just never quite fit for me in the world of our universe in rare disease, because it's never like a post experience. We have these like strings of experiences, right? We're in this chronic traumatic stress cycle, and our hands are always held to the fire. And there's been a lot of research on this, that chronic caregiving, whether it's of another person or for yourself, that the caregiving of chronic caregiving creates a different kind of stress than a post-traumatic. So when we have a post experience, you go through the stressful experience and then you get back to normal, right? Or you work to get back to normal. But in chronic stress, and this is all research from Dr. Alyssa Epple at UCSF, she's one of our amazing health and wellness practitioners. She did write a book called The Telomere Effect, if any of you have ever heard of it. It's really great. It's the science behind stress and the stressful response. And what they found in this science is that telomeres are these like little receptors at the end of your cells. Okay, they're within your cells, and as they wear out, when the telomeres are done being a conduit for messages, that becomes the end of your life, right? Okay, so the good news is this, that you can actually repair your telomeres, your cellular level, with mindfulness-based practices. And what are some of those? So we're versed on a few of them: yoga, meditation, other really basic things, more sleep and better quality sleep, eating well, right? So some of these are in our control, some of them aren't. Some of them are impacted by our health status, and I recognize that. But just know that the cumulative effect of a lifetime, right, is addressing the fact that we're buzzing, we're vibrating in rare disease at a whole different level, right? And therefore, every little thing that you can do in just a moment a day is going to help in this cycle, this chronic sort of stress cycle, right? And I also want to make the point that we talk about support, and we talk about the support in the industry a lot. We provide caregiver support, or we provide family support, or I'm supporting myself, or I'm supporting someone else. But I want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing, okay? And Psychology Today came out with this amazing article that breaks up the different kinds of support. So there's a difference between informational support and tangible support. And if you're in a diagnostic odyssey or you've received a diagnosis and you're now in sort of a treatment phase or a symptom management phase, often you're sort of living in informational and tangible support by necessity, right? This is like, it must happen because you need all the information. You know, what is this disease? How do I manage it? What are the symptoms? How do I manage those? How do I find doctors that can support me? Are there clinical trials, right? It's the things that are at the top of the triage list. And then later, down in the lower part of your list, are these other things. How am I going to get a break? What am I going to do to keep myself sane today? I got to go for a run. I've got to eat a little bit better. I'm going to stop the candy habit, or I'm going to set aside, you know, drinking a glass of wine every single night. I'm going to go to 5 days a week instead of 7, you know, whatever it is. It's like these things that we sort of, the conscience knows is good for us. What I want to offer to you, that those become foundational to support all the other things, right? But those are below the waterline. They kind of simmer. So it's really, really interesting. We surface these by asking in our community, and we have a community of rare mothers and quite a few rare fathers as well, predominantly caregivers. We ask always to our community, on a scale of 1 to 10, how supported do you feel? And so I'd ask the participants right now, I'm asking all of you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how supported do you feel? And if you want to share it in the chat, you can. If you want to just sort of take an inventory of that, 1 means hardly supported at all, and 10 means extremely supported, right? And this just becomes a barometer. And you know what? That number changes from a day-to-day experience. You some days you may feel more supported, some days you may feel less supported, right? I see the answers, and the reality is there's no judgment. It's how you feel, right? There's no, you need to be from one to the other. What we talk about is if you're responding in the 1 to 5 range, if you're feeling not supported, then we got to focus on resourcing you, right? And it might involve professional support. It might even involve, you know, an 800 number, or a text line, a crisis text line. If you're in the 6 to 10 range, you've probably found some resources to make you feel more supported. And now we're focused on things like, okay, you know, how can we carve out some respite care? How can we carve out a date night, right? How can we find just a few extra moments for you to even make you feel even more supported? Okay, so I just wanted to flash up there. If you go to our website and you click on resources, we do have resources if you are in the one end of the scale and you really, really need to talk to somebody or engage with somebody. We have resources available for you. And what I'll also let you know is that we did this really awesome study with University of Indiana University School of Social Work. And it'll blow your mind, right? So we asked, outside of a treatment or a cure for this rare disease, and it was broad in the community, right? All sorts of individuals from many different groups of rare diseases. But outside of a treatment or cure, what would be the most helpful to you in your day-to-day life? And here were the kind of big buckets of things. I'm just listening. I'm just looking for a listening ear without judgment, right? I just want someone to like let me vent. Don't try to fix it. Just listen, right? So I call it exquisite listening. I'm just looking for someone to connect with that will listen without judgment. There's nothing like a rare mother to listen to another rare mother, just like a rare father listen to a rare father, a rare parent listen to a rare parent, a patient listen to. It's, if you've been there, there's nothing like being on the receiving end of that message and the catharsis that comes from that exchange, right? So that's what we try to foster at Angel Aid. Okay, the other thing, I just want to hear stories that are similar to mine, right? It's this, I just want to know I'm not alone on the planet going through this, right? And that I'm not crazy. Because so often we get the brush off, at the hospital or in our experiences or by a neighbor, not intentional, sometimes intentional, whatever the case may be. But it's just nice to hear those stories. And then the third was I just need a little time and inspiration to do something for myself, right? So those are the three sort of big buckets of feedback, right? And there's such humanistic asks. We're not asking for a lot, right? We're just asking for some empathy, some storytelling, and some self-care and inspiration. So we focus Angel Aid on services around those three areas because they're needed. They're needed. And there's a lot of resources out there, and they can come from inside rare disease or outside rare disease, whatever it is. We just want to make sure that you know that we exist and that it's important, whether you get the resources from us or from someone else, it's important for you to take the time to support yourself. Okay. So one and one. So I gave you one tool already, which was breath work, right? That's the first formula, piece of the formula for sustainable self-care. Okay, so we're going to do the second one, and this one's called rainbow. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to take things out of your hands again and put your feet flat on the ground. And I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And I'm going to have you walk down a path. And as you're walking down the path, you can hear the sounds of what's around you. Maybe it's the crunch of gravel under your feet, or the soft thud of your sneakers on asphalt, or your toes softly sinking into the sand. Whatever your pathway is, you can hear the birds singing. You can hear possibly waves crashing. Think of what the sounds are around you. And as you look ahead on the path, you actually see a beautiful rainbow. All the colors of the rainbow. And as you're walking down the path, the rainbow is coming in your direction. It's moving closer. And one color is bathing you in its light. Could be red or orange or yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And these beautiful colors are awash around you, and one color in particular is flooding your vision. It's wrapping around your body. And I would ask that you open your eyes and hold that color in your heart and in your mind. If you'd like, you can share into the chat, share the color. And here's what happens with that color. Okay, so you're going to see this color is going to become a support structure for you. Okay, so if it's red, it's going to be a reminder of vitality and action, right? And strength. And if it's orange, it's going to remind you of creativity and happiness and joy. And if it's yellow, it's that life-giving energy of the sun. And if it's, here we go. And if it's green, it's the color of money and Mother Earth, right? And this sense of wealth and abundance and opportunity and well-being. If it's blue, it's this idea of trust and compassion and stability and calm. If it's indigo, it's spiritualism and grace. If it's violet, it's this sort of good judgment and nobility and sacred energy, right? And so what happens is this color becomes something to remind you. And I'll tell you, I do this exercise regularly. Um, sometimes it becomes the color of my eyeshadow. I'm like, okay, I'm like invoking orange. I need, like, I just need something to brighten up my day. Or I'm just going to kind of wear some blue today and ground myself, right? And we tend to gravitate towards some colors or others. But these can become beacons for you, and these can become reminders for you to take care of yourself, right? So you've got breath and you've got color, and thank you for those that shared. I love seeing those. So breath and rainbow are two tools for you for sustainable self-care. So do you see what I'm talking about? It doesn't take a 3-day retreat, although we do offer those. It doesn't take retreats. It doesn't take even an hour. It can just take a moment of awareness, of mindfulness, to find something that will help and sustain you. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to give you your 5 senses, right? So we all have 5 senses. Now, some of them have been tempered because of our diseases or diseases that we're managing. And some of them are stronger than others, right? But conceptually, we have 5 senses that we're working with: touch, taste, sound, smell, and sight. Okay, so we're going to put those 5 senses into service for you as self-care tools. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples. And the reason I really like this construct is because if you forget, gosh, I don't know what to do for myself today, just think about one of your senses and think about something you can do to activate and honor that sense, because then you're activating and honoring yourself. Okay, so let's talk about touch for a minute, because so many of us are super tactile oriented. So, breast cancer. So I'm going to be really kind of transparent with you. So my ritual at the end of a day, and I have, these big global jobs, and they were very stressful. And my ritual at the end of the day was to come in and have a Budweiser. I have a Bud girl, right? Really just loved my Budweisers, plural, at the end of the day. And what I realized when I was faced with a health challenge is that this ritual may not actually be great for me, right? I need to change up this daily ritual in my life. And so now what I do when I want to transition from work life into, okay, mom, wife, friend, kind of evening time, is I go get my, something super soft. And sometimes it's my VP robe. Sometimes it's just a sweatshirt that's super soft. Sometimes I'll just sit on the couch and grab a really cozy blanket. But something tactile to shift my mindset from one into the other, and just take a few moments of awareness that I'm doing that, has become a life changer for me, right? And we have these like crazy super soft Angel Aid blankets that we ship out when we're doing retreats, and we ship them to our rare mothers. And I've been hearing from the moms that, oh my gosh, like that helps me sleep at night, right? Just knowing that in the softness of this inanimate object, right? But we overlay a sense of well-being into things. And so you can create it. It could be a stuffed animal, it could be, some super soft bed or couch, or a sweatshirt, as I mentioned. It doesn't matter what it is, but the point is to use touch and tactiles to support yourself. Okay, so that's one idea. So then another idea is around taste. So you can make a ritual out of making coffee. And so much of us are already making some sort of warm drink in the morning, or even, the British are famous for this, right? Like the 3 o'clock tea, sort of afternoon tea experience. So stepping back and making a ritual out of that, really putting some mindful intent behind sourcing your ingredients. Maybe this is an example: turquoise river tea, right? So these are herbs and flowers. Sometimes I'll take a sprinkle of turquoise river tea and I'll just add it to my coffee as it's brewing in the morning, because then I know every sip I take, I'm doing something for myself. right? Some sort of self-nurturing element. So I put the links on here, and I just want to make this really clear. I'm not pushing product at all. There's no benefit to Angel Aid or myself in doing this. I just want to give you tactical, tangible things, if because not all of us are as creative as others. And I've been asked, could you provide the link? Could you provide? So that's why the links are in here. Okay, sound. So here's an interesting one. This can be an amazing conduit to health and well-being. So using mindfulness-based meditations. So these are two of the biggies: Insight Timer, Headspace. If you've ever heard of those, if you haven't, you can try them out. They have different trials and things like that. There's lots of free meditations to listen to, or calming music or something, but just to activate your sense of sound. And Padma Gordon is one of our most beloved practitioners in Angel Aid. She actually runs a Tuesday at 10 a.m. Rare Mothers in Relationship sessions, like a support group every Tuesday at 10 a.m. And she's amazing. All of her meditations are on our YouTube channel. So if you want to download from some free meditations, you can go to Angel Aid Cares on YouTube and download as well. She's also on Insight Timer and Headspace. If it's someone else, or if it's just Bach or Beethoven, right? The point is to activate that sense of sound in service to your own health and well-being. Some of us, my husband in particular, has a really strong sense of smell. So I can change our whole mood and dynamic in the household. And I have heard from many, many caregivers that they use aromatherapy as a way to calm or elevate the mood in their household with their patient child, with themselves as caregivers. So essential oils, and you don't actually have to buy like the prepackaged ones. You can create scent all over the place, right? A package of mint from the grocery store and crumbled up smell and put into some of your ice water, or an orange peel. We're peeling the orange anyway. Take it, twist it, smell it, put it on, will give you a boost, right? So just activating through essential oils, and then sight. So I am a very sight-driven person. This is Wonder Woman. She was my alter ego as I was going through my patient experience. And visual cues can be incredibly important. These bracelets are something that we ship out to our rare mothers. We like to surprise and delight our community, so we just sort of send out gifts now and again. And we have a relationship with Collective Hearts. They make, hearts. So the point is, whether it's them or anybody else, it could be a Green Bay Packers hat, or a Green Bay Packers sweatshirt, or, Tennessee Titans, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be hearts and flowers. It can be whatever visually reminds you of strength, of support, of yourself, that you're being there for yourself through this experience. So I offer to you in closing that empathy starts with you. Right? That again, you are worthy of the same love and attention that you give to others. And the path to sustainable self-care is these little tiny moments, these ritualized moments every single day. I've shared breath work with you today. I've shared rainbow with you today, and the 5 senses, right? So you've walked away. Thank you for this hour that you've spent, but you've walked away with 7 tools that you can use through these micro moments a day. I hope that they're helpful to you. And I wanted to give you the punchline on our story. So remember that couple, Richard and Phyllis Barrett? They divorced out of the stress of caregiving for my 3 older brothers. Well, fast forward. They each remarried again, short-term marriages, and divorced again. Then they remarried a 3rd time to other people. Long-term marriages, 20-year-long marriages. They widowed within a year of each other, the same year my daughter was born. And Richard and Phyllis, after 35 years, actually found themselves back in love and empathy and forgiveness with each other. And so they've been back together for 14 years now. And if that's a Hollywood ending and it inspires you in any way, I just thought I would share our Barrett family story with you. And my alarm just went off, so I've got 5 minutes for Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing at this point and just bring this up so that I can see the chat screen and see if we can't get some questions answered here. Okay, so I see lots of, I'll just kind of recap for a quick moment. Saw quite a range in people's feeling of support, right? So as low as 2 and as high as 8, right? So just to give you kind of a sense. And then also in terms of the colors, right? Orange and yellow and blue. Yeah, all such beautiful colors. So I'm hopeful that those are some tools that will be things that you remember, because that's the hard part too, right? You don't want to have to refer back to a presentation. You just want to be able to kind of remember some of these self-care tools. So I don't see any questions at this time, but I just want you to know I'm sending my love, sending my energy to you, sending my hugs and my warmth. You're just an incredible group of families. I know that. I know that you're living a difficult life, and I hope that you take just a few moments every day for you, for self-care. Oh, okay. I see one question here. One thing I do when I'm extra exhausted is imagine my shoulders and neck being massaged. It isn't real touch, but it is helpful. It is helpful. You're so right, Sarah. I'm so glad you shared that. You know, and we do a lot of self-massage. It's amazing, actually. Self-massage on your head and just relieving some of that energy. My mom rolls on a tennis ball, right? And just you know, they've got those rollers now, but even just taking a few minutes and doing some self massage on your body, you can't believe how tight you are, right? Here I've been presenting for an hour, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. Okay, so let's just, you know, do all of these different kinds of moments of relief. So really good reminder. Thank you for that. So here's another one. We deal with a lot of guilt for what we can't or haven't done for our family member. Is that a reoccurring theme? Yes. Yes, guilt is a reoccurring theme. And oh gosh, there's so many ways to approach the management of guilt, right? Because it's not, it's sort of, you know, these things are not your fault, right? And so hearing, and there's lots of meditations to listen to about guilt. Some of our other rare mothers use journaling. I can tell you that journaling is my mother's go-to management kind of resource, is just to write it out. I'm a talk it out. I need to talk it out with someone. So, because I'm auditory driven, so I need to talk it out and have a conversation. And sometimes it's okay, I'm going to set a timer. I just need you to listen to me for the next 5 minutes. Okay, I just need like to look you in. This is typically to my husband, right? I just need you to listen for 5 minutes, and I'm just going to purge and get all of this out, right? Out of my body, out of my mind. And then we can have a conversation about it. Guilt can be crushing. And if you're finding that it's a set of thoughts that are being repeated again and again that you cannot release yourself from, then I do recommend finding some sort of intervention and support if you can. And it doesn't have to be a professional necessarily. There are pastors and ministers, social workers. There's a lot of elders. There's a lot of individuals that are really quite versed in just the life experience of shouldering that weight and responsibility, even for things that we couldn't do anything about, right? Couldn't do anything about. So I hope that was helpful. I know that's a complex topic to explore. You're so welcome. Okay. Okay, so here's what I would suggest. Since we're all here together, I think that we should do an energy send to each other, right? Because we've just built a community over the last hour. So let's send an energy. We'll send it through the transom, okay? So I'm sending you love, and with intention, I am sending you support, okay? And then I'm going to receive. So give yourself a hug, receive that back, know that it's there for you, that you're worthy of receiving it. I hope that you have a really wonderful evening. I hope that the rest of the conference is meaningful, that you come with some takeaways that are life-changing. I hope that you find some moments in the sun this summer, find some moments of gratitude in life, and just know that I've got you in my heart. I've got you in my heart. Okay, so thank you so much. Have a really wonderful rest of your night or morning, depending on where you're joining from. And we will see you online and in the world.
Thank you so much, Crystal. That was amazing. I feel so much better. I just want to thank you so much. I want to thank our sponsors and, of course, our audience for making the virtual family conference this year a possibility. We hope so bad to see you in person next year. I hope. Yes, that was it. That was great. Thank you. You guys have a good rest of the night.